We're away.
Welcome to the third in our podcast series at New Zealand Web Fest. We have some powerful creators this morning for you. It's actual play video, and we are talking over continents and time zones with Anne, Taya, Chris, and Connie. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for your time at whatever hour it is, wherever you are. We really appreciate it. And so I thought we'd start by quick introduction, elevator pitch of the pod, and to let everybody know who you are, what you do, and where we can find you. So, Chris, you were the first one in, so you get to start.
Sweet. My name's Chris. I go by D&D Imposter online, and I'm one of the founding members of Tabletop Tempest. And our first show ever, Beneath the Surface, is the one that was currently nominated and accepted into this wonderful festival. And our story is one made entirely by immigrants and children of immigrants. It's a story based on real life events and specifically Brazilian and Amazonian folklore, and is following 5 cousins who have since left their shared ancestral town, but are called back for a family reunion, only to find out that things are not as their aunties and uncles told them and what the grandparents said was going to happen. And instead, their town's connection spiritually to ancestors that have now passed has waned, and they've been called back to fix that. So a story of culture and immigration.
Fantastic. And Anne?
Hello, I am Anne Monteverdi. I go by Gnome Anne or Anne the Gnome across the internet. I am a TTRPG creator, so I am hosting regular panels, run a game design show, do some design myself, writing, and then of course performing and producing an actual play. And the show I'm representing here is Wayward Autumnal, which is a dark feminine sylvan horror. So very much in the tradition of films like The Witch, or if you've read the book Slewfoot, it follows the story of a 16-year-old sort of legally distinct Puritan girl who ventures into the woods to forage mushrooms to support her family, and then devolves into this nightmarish hellscape of sort of queer monstrosity, and all against this really lush, beautiful setting. And this was my first time running a show using a GM-less system. So no one's steering. We used Under the Autumn Strangely, and this is a really cool game in which one person portrays the character, another portrays the terror and the darkness that lies underneath everything, and then one person portrays the setting. And so I was the setting.
That's incredible. Connie?
Hey folks, my name is Connie, pronouns they, he, she, and ta. I am the game master and creative director for Transplanar RPG, which is an all transgender, people of color led dark fantasy actual play channel telling stories set in an original non-colonial anti-orientalist multiverse. This year, we submitted Godkiller Last Hope to the Webfest circuit, which is our very first foray into in-studio work, very excitingly. And the story follows Litany, the titular godkiller, who has been forged for a single purpose their entire life: to kill the immortal Emperor of Heaven, who also happens to be their mother's sister. So the show explores themes of generational trauma, cycles of vengeance, and what it means to carve your own becoming out of blood, blade, and bone. And it's set in a xianxia, or Chinese fantastical kind of cultivator setting, draws on my own heritage as a Chinese diasporic person, and also interrogates questions of the figure of the god killer themselves as an entity that is both godly and mortal, and also neither, and also beyond, and making sure that we are the ones who are able to define what it means to be ourselves in conversation with our culture.
Wow. And Taya, tell us about Damsels in Distress.
Hi, I'm Taya Kambalova, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm an actor, theatre maker, and I am 1/4 of Damsels in Distress. That's always how I introduce myself when I talk about Damsels, because the 4 of us do everything across the whole show. And the project that we've submitted this year, by courtesy of the wonderful Tabletop Arts Fund grant, who are amazing, is Demons and Daughters, which is a very heavily homebrewed D&D 5e actual play video series set in Regency England. It tells the story of three young girls who have been very sheltered and raised semi-believing to different extents in their oppressive, classist, patriarchal society, all Jane Austen ball gowns and tea parties. And they slowly uncover a hidden world of demons, magic, monsters, and all the while they're searching for their missing fathers whilst kind of unraveling their family secrets, their family traumas, and learning not to repeat the mistakes and sins of the past.
Oh
and
my
it's very,
goodness.
very queer.
It's like just
Love this
sitting here
group.
in awe of all of this. This is incredible. These are amazing stories. And I suppose, I mean, how do you choose? How do you choose your story? Does anyone want to take that one? Does anyone just went, yes, this is what we wanted to do and this is how we decided to do it? Or is it something that you came upon slowly?
I
think
can tackle this first. I'm gonna stick my craw in here. Basically, so God Killer is a really interesting game. God Killer Last Hope uses the God Killer system, as you can tell from the title, and I also happen to be the designer behind God Killer. This is a game I've been writing for too long. I first started it in like 2021, maybe 2022. The Ashcan is out. I'm currently developing the full game with Evil Hat Productions, and I've told a lot of stories using the system. Last Hope is actually maybe like the third or like fourth AP I've recorded using God Killer, and I'm very familiar with running the system. And typically, a God Killer story follows a God Killer who's stepping into their heretical power for the first time in a lot of ways. Like, it'll often follow the first time they kill a god, or like the first big act of heresy that they make, or unseating whatever hierarchies of divinity are present in a person's particular God Killer world. But I knew for Last Hope that me and my cast, we really wanted to kind of go against the grain. And feature a God Killer who's kind of on the other end of the spectrum. A God Killer that has been raised from creation to be the God Killer, who has only a single identity, which is to kill gods. And we thought it'd be interesting to kind of do a reverse of the typical like character arc that comes with a God Killer story of, okay, how do we go backwards and have this character who's like so like empowered by their own divinity that they don't know what it means to honor their mortal heart. How do we work backward and unpeel that for them and get to that question of Litany's mortal heart instead of what it means for them to claim divinity first and foremost. And then all the stuff about like generational cycles of trauma, queerness, transness, all of that just came kind of with the territory of telling the kinds of stories that we like to tell as Transplanter. And then I can pass things over to Anne.
So with Wayward Autumnal, so this is interesting for me because I'm the kind of GM historically who like goes away and like writes a little novel about all my dreams and hopes, and I have like arcs and I have all these, and then it all gets thrown out the window inevitably once we start playing. But I'm like a person who loves that, and so when I was coming into a GM-less system where I'm like, I have like everyone shares narrative control equally. I cannot steer this story any more than anyone else can. And so when I discovered this game, I thought it was really cool. It's kind of based off Over the Garden Wall, but like darker.
Yep.
And I was just like, how fun, love autumn. That was literally where it started. It was like, how fun, love autumn. But then it was mostly like the people that I called up and brought to the table. Like I brought Josephine Kim, who's immediately like, I want it to be a gritty, intimate horror. Like I want it to be like really dark feminine. And M. Carlson, who's like, I want it to be a coming of age story that takes place in this area. Like these, it's like the people, and as soon as they touch it, they bring it out. And then it's as much as it's like the coalescence of all of these sort of ideas. And then as that unfurls to be what the story became.
Fantastic. Chris or Tay, did you want to take this one at all, or?
Yeah, I can jump in. Because I think for us, we very much had an idea of the story we wanted to tell as a collective. So the four of us are like a close unit before we ventured into actual play, this was our first actual play venture, and it's kind of taken us here, which is incredible. But we all make theatre together, and we all trained as actors together. So our creative process has always been very linked. And it was actually on a really long drive with Lyndon, our GM, and me. We were driving sort of the length of England, and we were going through these historic towns, and we were just talking, and we're both massive history fans, history nerds. And as we were driving, we just kind of started concocting this story and this sort of like hidden demonic underworld. And we started kind of weaving. I'm a massive, classic literature, Jane Austen fan. And we started weaving these things together. And it was Lyndon who had the thought of, oh no, this could be a very interesting campaign. And I think he has played a lot of D&D over the years, a lot of the different versions of D&D, and sort of wanted to push it and play with it and mold it. And because it's an accessible system for a lot of viewers, but it's also so moldable, and we've done a lot, and we've changed a lot, and we've created a lot. So we've kind of adapted it to us. But kind of on a similar vein to what Connie was saying, we sat down with the knowledge of what we were doing and the vague, dramaturgical awareness of what the themes would be. And then because of who we all are as people, we're an all queer cast, kind of half gender queer cast. And we sat down to tell this story about young girls in a historic patriarchy. And the story revolves around their relationships with their fathers. And for two of the three main girls, they're queer, they're lesbians, and the other is chronically ill. And we all sat down, and I think after the first session, we were like, oh, we know what this story is going to be now. And, it's looking back, it's like, how could it have ever been otherwise? But now, every theme, we're in Act 3 now, we're sort of in the final part of the story, and looking back, every single theme and every epic battle against demons and every like myth about dead gods kind of ties in and harks back to the experience of girlhood and queerness, and not just the sorrow of that, but the beauty of it and our experience of that we've all managed to bring to these characters in such a beautiful, beautiful way. So it kind of was a mix of we knew the story, and we sort of found the meaning of the story the minute we stepped into it, and it's been gorgeous.
Wow. What about you, Chris?
Ironically, jumping off of that, mine was inspired by my father, actually.
Wow.
He immigrated to the United States from Brazil when he was a young adult. And I remember his naturalization ceremony. I remember growing up with a lot of the Brazilian quirks that he had. But it was a conversation that I had with him a few years prior. And I'm sorry, Dad, for throwing you under the bus if you're watching. But a conversation I had with him was, I was asking him about kind of the immigrant experience for him. And he was like, well, I'm not an immigrant, I'm American. And that line really stuck with me. And it made me kind of explore a bit more of like, what does being an immigrant, being a child of immigrant mean in the US, especially in Western societies.
Mm-hmm.
He had left Brazil, and to be honest, had a lot of his childhood ripped away from him. And so there was this, I'm leaving this behind me attitude. So when Tabletop Tempest was created, and we created it completely by immigrants and children of immigrants, our first show, it was for us, by us. We had Indian voices, Cambodian, Venezuelan, Singaporean, Mexican, Chinese, and all of these cultures just flooded into a story where we wanted to use our own voice and experience to really look at what does it mean to be in this space, to having had your culture ripped away from you. Maybe some of these characters putting their own voice, these players putting their own voice into their characters, they knew everything and everyone from their family and their culture. Maybe the connection to where their family came from was performative. Maybe reconnecting with it tore their sense of self apart. And so really this story was kind of a love letter to my dad, as myself was rediscovering it. And then some of the people at my table trying to figure out what it means to reconnect and redefine what culture means when you're trying to connect to where your family came from, and how to keep these parts of really your history and family alive.
Sitting here in awe. I just think I just want you guys to just keep talking. This is amazing. This is just incredible. So when you're putting all these together and you've got all these amazing stories, and I was going to ask you about the people coming in, but you've already told me they come in, they touch the story, they make it their own. and it puts everything in that wonderful trajectory. But what's the biggest hurdle?
Funding?
Yeah, I was literally gonna say money.
Like, is that crass? Sorry.
No, it's not. I know it's like anytime you've got anything that you're so passionate about, it's trying to find the means and ways to keep it going. So I suppose it's, the biggest hurdle might be money, but does it mean side hustles? Does it mean full-time work? Does it mean hitting up arts grants for those who have them available? What's the way to get around it?
Yes.
I will use this opportunity to hype up Tabletop Arts Fund because they're the reason that I'm here now representing damsels. They do this fantastic grant where they give actual plays the opportunity to enter the Audio Fiction World Cup Webfest circuit. So we applied last year with our sort of festival cut for Act 2 of Damsels. We had managed to be in Rainbow Roll Fest last year because they offered scholarships. That was why that was the only one we could do. From that, we got directly selected to New Jersey, which was very lucky, very grateful. So we were able to do 2 fests for free in our fest year. But it's thanks to Tabletop Arts Grant that we're here now, that we're here this year. Because we, similarly to everybody, where do you find the money for it? And we're making this off our own backs as 4 queer actors in England, which has a poverty problem right now. And it is a struggle. And I think it's one of the things that I'm most grateful for is that there are these schemes out there. You just have to look for them and put yourself in their way and connect to people. But yeah, it's also been a lot of hustling for us. I mean, we very recently have moved into our new studio for Act 3, which is gorgeous. It looks so much more professional than us sat around the kitchen table, which is in our current Webfest screener. And we're so lucky to have this studio. And the reason we have it is because Lyndon, our GM, it used to be the space for his old business that he no longer has. And instead of getting rid of it, we converted it, and we did that all ourselves. We ripped out the chocolate factory kitchen that was in there. We redecorated, we painted, we put up these, if you look on our show, we have Regency Historic House wood paneling. It's just cut-offs of wood that we've stuck to the walls and painted. So for us, it's been a lot of our own time, effort, energy. But it's it's our baby, we want to put that into it. But I agree, funding definitely has hindered, particularly, I mean, we're all TTRPG players. Scheduling is the devil, even when it's 4 of us who are very close friends who live near each other. And finding the time around work and hustles and everything is also really, really difficult.
I guess I can chime in too. One of the reasons, at least for us, that money is also the reason is because, and I'm sure everyone can attest to this, it's the amount of hours that not even the person at the head is putting into it. Especially when you're telling stories that are tugging, your goal is to tug on the heartstrings of the audience. Therefore, you're being tugged yourself. And there's a level of professionality, and not everyone has theater experience or comes in with some level of, how to monitor bleed, how to deal with things that, even though on consent sheets and you're okay with, and you told everyone, hey, I'm okay with this being at the table, when it actually happens, that's another, if players would choose to. I remember staying online for another hour or an hour and a half, just talking with players because they just need to get emotion out. So it's also the money, and also because of how much time is being put into it, how much time is going into preparation. I can only imagine the amount of time Connie and the team were putting into Damsels in Distress for an in-person show and a studio show and all that extra set work that goes in. But I think there's an emotional stress to some level, and that requires a level of kind of independence. If you're one of the people running the show, and independence of you want to make sure that you're not overwhelming yourself, that you remember that you are also an important person at this table that needs to be looked out for and needs to be cared for, which is where the community of, I feel like all of our shows really have come in to support one another.
That leads straight back into the next question, which is, what's the best thing? Because I'm sitting here listening to your talk, and when you talk, there's this incredible sort of joy and passion in that just appears in the face and in the tone. So could you draw it down to a single thing that makes it amazing? Or
I think I have one thing because, like, first off, just the love of tabletop role playing games
Yeah.
is incredible. Like, when you're like, I would say the story is always the best thing, right? We're always here for the story. But the thing that is actual play and that I think is incredible is all the things we do to make. Because when you're in the story, when you're one of the people at the table and this is happening to you, your character, you feel like there's an orchestra swelling in the background. Like you feel like you can hear the leaves rustling, but you can't. It's just because you're in it so much, right? And then with actual play, we can actually bring that to an audience. So we can kind of replicate that experience of what it was like actually for us. Like we often talk about like heightening or things or trying to emulate cinema. And I don't think that's it. I think we're trying to emulate what we were experiencing when we were there. And having the tools to do that and being able to have that and share it, I think is just, there's nothing like it.
It's like I'm seeing everybody else go, yep,
Yeah, I really resonate with that. Something me and my player, because God Killer Last Hope was a two-person epic. It's me as the GM and C. Thomas, who's also my producer and my life partner as the player. Something that was really, that we talk about a lot as artists is if we weren't doing actual play, we would do something else to get the story inside of us out there. Right now, we really love actual play because we're huge nerds. We love playing tabletop role-playing games. It's a wonderful way to spend time together and tell stories together. And I think, it's kind of at the nexus and also beyond film, improv, screenwriting, TV, writing, live theater, dance even. C is a dancer and brings a lot of like choreographic ways of thinking about art to their embodiment of their performance, which I think is really cool. But for me, there's something really cool about actual play where it's not, budget is the biggest problem, but the budget doesn't limit the kinds of stories we can tell because it's the imagination of it all. Right. Whereas like a sci-fi TV show or film, a lot of the story it's able to tell is limited by how good, compelling, and immersive the special effects are, the CGI, the set design, all of that stuff. But in an AP, we're just narrating to each other. And as a in studio production, if you watch like the screener or even like the 2-minute trailer for God Killer Last Hope, you'll notice that our set is really sparse. And that was on purpose because one, we knew we wouldn't have a lot of money to make this thing. And two, we wanted to kind of highlight the sparseness of the set as like a core part and an intentional part of the set design. We wanted it to feel kind of like a black box theater performance meets like a music video because that was what our TD's experience was. He'd never shot an AP before. He'd only ever shot like commercial work, short films and music videos. So he was working with Ryan was super, super cool. And for me, one of the most rewarding things that I'm realizing as I'm speaking is everyone's vision coming together to make this incredible work of art. It's like we can set everything up during session zeros, right? We can talk about what we want, what we don't want. We'd have these dramaturgy meetings. We can all be on the same page thematically. But, all of that, it's when it actually crystallizes in the moment, in the performance, in the story that we find together. And then if this is pre-recorded, then in the editing process afterward, like Anne was saying, like bringing in the sound design, the scoring, like the SFX, whatever else you might be adding to your show to really elevate the heart of the story you're trying to tell. And that to me is what makes it the most rewarding. And I think why, as someone, because my background in the arts actually is improv comedy as well as screenwriting. For the longest time, I wanted to make like TV and film, but I kind of veered and like gravitated toward games and APs because of the wealth of imagination that's there. Like we're not limited by the sets necessarily, right? The sets are there to add elements, but really it's what I'm saying to you and what you're saying back to me that is what tells the story.
Blown away by these answers. Is there something that you've come across while you've been doing it from somebody who's watching or listening that has really impacted how you feel and how you go on? Have you made that connection with the audience, or is it sort of, something that you're doing strictly for yourselves? I mean, it's not necessarily for yourselves. You know what I mean, though. So you're telling the stories. Has it made that connection to someone out there?
Yeah, I think
definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think that is also kind of links back to the last question, and is another one of the most special things about actual play is, like, I mean, you both articulated everything that I feel also, like, so well. You know, the story and the collaborative making of something is so beautiful. And then seeing that thing, you know, that means so much to us, that was born out of all of our intention, but also all of our instinct, and seeing that touch other people and connect to their lived experiences as well, is the most special thing in the world. Whether your audience is, you know, 5 people or 500, it doesn't make much of a difference. I think if you've connected to somebody else through your work, there's just nothing like it. We, a few months ago, we got our first like fan art, and there was such a beautiful encapsulation of a moment of my character hugging one of the others in this moment. And my character is disabled. She has limb difference, so she's missing her left hand, and that was, to see that in a drawing was so beautiful.
Wow.
And it was just gorgeous. And I mean, because of the themes on our show as well, and the themes kind of in all the shows represented here, it's kind of extra impactful, because, you know, we're telling such a specific story about female rage and queer female rage, and when that resonates with the audience, there's that connection sort of across internet, across countries, across time periods. You know, our story is set in the 1820s, and it's dealing with very modern topics. And whenever that hits and reaches someone, whether through catharsis or hope or joy or sadness, it's all so beautiful, and it makes the whole experience so special.
I love the word that you used. Oh, sorry.
No, please finish it up. Finish your thought.
No, I was just gonna say, I love the word that you used, resonance, because I can guess that every single one of us has had some sort of, when the audience sees representation from their own life or something that they aren't seeing enough of in media, even down to food. I think my group talked about food every episode more than anything, consistently, culturally, across the board. And I remember I was putting Brazilian food in almost every single episode I could think of, and making sure that they were bringing their own cultural foods as well. And we had some people in comments for one of the episodes being like, I can literally smell the feijoada, like my mom's feijoada, like a black bean and meat stew that we make in Brazil. She was like, I can literally smell my mother's while I'm watching this. Wow. So I'm hearing it, I'm watching it, and I'm smelling it. And she was like, this is amazing. So it's just awesome to see how representation can be perceived and taken in from so many different ways, not just what somebody physically looks like or how somebody's talking, but in even just like the foods people are eating, in the clothes somebody's wearing, somebody taking their shoes off before they enter the room, like tiny little things that anybody in the audience feels seen by, I think always makes everything worth it.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with what folks have already said. It's, you know, and really heavy on the whether if it's 5 folks who have, you know, watched your work, or 500 or 5,000. I think even having one person that was a stranger originally, like, discover your work, find it, and resonate with it is what makes a lot of this worth it, for me at least. We've been very fortunate, Transplaner, with Last Hope and many of our other series, to have a very active and creative and involved fandom. It's always incredible to see fan art, especially really gay fan art of our characters kissing. That's my favorite kind of fan art. And fanfic too. Like, oh my god, there are fic writers who will like write. There was one for Last Hope where someone wrote like a interior character monologue of what they thought like the main player character would be thinking during like a particular moment. That was like so cool to see people's like interpretation of our art. Some of my, I think, the most touching fan interactions I've had have been when there are 2. One is when people have reached out to us and said that the show has positively affected them in some way, either from like a representation standpoint or from like a mental health like support standpoint. That truly means a lot to me, as someone who, you know, has struggled with both historically myself. And also when I see that our work has inspired other people to make stuff, that's like kind of the highest compliment I think you could pay me as an audience member, is if my work inspires you to tap into your own creativity, your own artistic vision. If watching Last Hope makes you want to run an AP or write a short story that doesn't even have to be a fan work, right? Or make music or something, that I think is really meaningful to me as an artist, especially.
It's like, Anne, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to repeat what others said. Like, there's so much there. What I'll add is I think one thing that's always interesting too, when it comes to representation, is like specifically with Wayward, I had a few like men be like, "This clearly isn't for me," but I am learning things, and I thought that was like so fascinating because it's a story that like gets way more like. Mostly, especially in like actual play, usually topics that are like taboo, that like it gets like right on in there. Like, and so I thought that was really fascinating to me, of like having people who are usually very well represented be like, huh, wait a second, and wrestle with that. And then also, this is just in general in my body of work. I've had a lot of people, how do I say this? My work is very queer. And there's a lot of people who show up on the first day being like, oh, isn't that funny? And then by the later on, they're like, wait a second. And so I have watched many an egg crack or like a closet swing open over the years. And I think that's pretty beautiful, of something what might not immediately feel like representation, that like because stories allow us to discover not only things about the world, about other people, and about ourselves, right? Even as an audience member.
Okay, so this leads again into the next question. And I did have a list of questions and I'm just like, you guys have just done all over that. But if somebody, and in this kind of world at the moment, I think we do need creativity more than ever as a form of resistance, as a form of getting the voices and diversity out. If somebody's on that cusp, Connie, like you said, you know, they're on that cusp of doing something creative, do you have any advice? Any advice from
I do.
all of your experiences, you know,
yes.
What would you give to someone who's just on that teetering?
This is for all of my ADHDers, for everyone who's a perfectionist, for everyone who holds themselves to a really high standard, is queer and trans. Done is better than perfect. Done is always, 10 times out of 10 better than perfect. Just get it out there. I first started streaming APs in 2020, 5 years ago. You can go to our YouTube page, go to the very first live stream we've ever done. It looks like, can we cuss here? I'm not going to cuss.
Absolutely.
It looks like butts. Okay, great. Then it looks like ass. It looks like the overlay. It looks like baby's first trans pride, you know, like stream. It's because I was just so happy. And I say this with so much love in my heart for my past self, right? Like the boxes were all the trans colors and it was chunky. I don't know what I was doing. We had tech issues. Our mic sounded terrible. I was trying to do 10,000 things at once while going live. But that was the most important thing, is that we just did it. Yeah. And it wasn't perfect. And would there be a lot that I would change if I could go back in time and redo the first story we ever told? Hell yes. Oh my God. I'm like a little embarrassed looking back at it, right? But the thing is, I wouldn't have been able to get to the place I am if I hadn't just thrown caution to the wind and just hit go live. So I think there are a lot of things you can do to set yourself up for whatever you define success as when you first press go live, and a lot of guardrails you can set up, right? Because I say throw caution to the wind, but you also want to do things in a way that won't hurt you, at least not immediately, or the people that you're working with, right? But like, if you have those considerations, you know, hammered out, you think about it for more than 5 minutes, just do it. Do it, because you're not gonna, you can always find excuses to not put something out there. But there is nothing worth just having a piece of art out there that you can always revisit it. You can always iterate on it. I am a strong believer in quantity over quality, insofar as I think quantity produces quality. You can brute force your way into making good stuff. I truly believe this.
And again, I'm seeing all the nods. Is this, yeah? Everyone's obviously in agreement.
I want to add something to that too, is remember, if you want to create something and maybe you're a little more ambitious, like, you don't have to go in alone. In fact, I would highly recommend against it. Find your community. And if you, like, say you want to get into actual play, see if there's a project that you can just contribute to, that you could, like, we are desperate for crew, like, want to help out, that you can learn the ropes. And without having to just, like, try to start by, I think a lot of people, myself included, started by, I'll just do everything and I'll be the, and that is definitely one way to do it. And that is trial by fire, and you'll get there eventually. But I think if you want to be a little kinder, one thing you can do is, like, reach out to your community early, find those connections, learn from other people, work with other people, and you can get so much there, and it'll be a very fulfilling experience.
If I can jump off of that too, if you have someone who you trust, who supports you and loves the idea you have, and whose criticism and dramaturgy and storyboard producing opinions you will accept when they tell you this makes no sense and the audience will not understand it. If you have someone who is willing to be that cheerleader for you, mine with Tabletop Tempest is Jonathan, Latinos Against Spooky Shit. He came in and supported my story with what felt like almost more love than I did in the beginning. And there have been countless, all of us know on the neurospicy 2 a.m. calls, I have an idea, are you up? So many of those where he would just let me go for 30 minutes and then at the end be like, write it all down, this is incredible, or my dude, you need to get some sleep. Make a note. And to have somebody that of course, there's a bit of ego death that needs to come with having a relationship like that in storytelling. Mm-hmm. But to allow yourself to lay your ego aside and truly accept that somebody wants to see this succeed as much as you do and is not trying to take over for you, just wants to see you and wants to see the story win, because they know it's not just because you want to tell it. They know because somebody out there needs to hear it as well. That has been like one of the best things in this experience, in this ride. So that's what I would suggest to anyone. If you got someone, hold on to them, get them snacks, do whatever, like, make it work.
This is like, but what if somebody wants to start, they don't know where to start, they don't know, or they don't have anyone that they can bounce off? How do they reach out?
There's a lot of ways.
This is what we need to let people know, is like, if they want to start, if they want to kick off, if they want to join in, how?
I would say, so it's going to be different because I think we're all tapped into probably different social media spaces, especially now when the internet is so weird now. I personally find a lot of the folks in my ecosystem on Blue Sky now. We've kind of mass immigrated off of Twitter. I know there's TTRPG threads. I'm not super active there, but I know other people are. My experience with Blue Sky, if you trawl the hashtags and then you just start follow a creator you like and then check their following list. And then, like, check out those profiles, and that's how you'll get tapped into, like, a greater ecosystem. Just follow the chain. Like, play your own game of telephone and follow the people whose works and profiles look interesting to you. And then I would say a lot of this depends on your goals in the space. Like, the goal doesn't have to be like a 5-year plan with every month laid out. It can just be, do you want to make an AP? Like, what do you want to do in the space and why? Those are two really important questions, because I think that will really influence my advice to you. But there is no harm in sending a friendly and personal and genuine cold email to a creator that you look up to, whose work you respect and admire, perhaps whose work you want to make similar work to. The worst thing that can happen is they don't have the time to respond to you, but they might respond and give you advice, offer to hop on a call with you to, like, talk you through what you can do. A lot of people have reached out to me, and I have almost always, like, unless I truly have no time, I've almost always made the time to, like, respond to an email, especially a very thoughtful, doesn't have to be super long, but just an email like, hey, I like what you do in the space. Can you tell me how you did that? and I'm more than happy to chat. A lot of people here are more than happy to chat and lend their insights. And there are so many Discord servers out there. Personally, I dislike having Discord servers because they're such siloed walls of information that not everyone has access to. But I know there are servers out there, especially if you are marginalized in some way, for AP creators and TTRPG creators in general, to kind of find a network and find an ecosystem. I would be happy to drop some. There's a Apochromatic Unlimited is for any Black, Indigenous, and people of color, tabletop APers and creators in the space. They have like an open Discord server for folks who are interested in that. I know that there are like very many others that I'd be happy to maybe post in chat, and maybe we could put them in the YouTube description.
The show notes. Absolutely. No, this is great because actually we're kind of out of time. But what I wanted to say is, like, when I started off and I said that we had some powerful creators, I have to admit I completely underestimated that power. This has been one of the most incredible conversations that I have ever had the pleasure to moderate. Thank you so much for your time, for your insights, for the passion, for the love of what you do, for giving stories and voices that chance to be shared. It is just amazing. And of course, thank you for being part of New Zealand Web Fest. I mean, people can have a look at everything that everyone has done. Just go to nzwebfest.co.nz or Humanitix, search up NZ Webfest. You can listen to everything. You will be amazed because powerful creators, wow, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.